Good morning, Carol. This is Jennifer. I'm going to show you how I would restore your photo. I want to apologize in advance for any dog barking or anything like that you may hear. And if I forget to talk, which I often do in these videos, just ask me questions. So, as you can see, I have your photo pulled up on PicMonkey. And I'm just going to go through the steps that I do. I'm going to go to Effects. I'm going to change it to black and white. Then I'm going to go down to my levels and adjust them accordingly. Now this looks a little muddy dark to me, so I'm probably going to make it a little bit brighter. That's good. And you'll probably hear my laptop whining, so it's nothing unusual. Anyway, so now that we have that done, I know clone is right here, but I don't know why I always use it over here. It's no difference between the two. Now cloning took me a long time to learn too. As you know, you can adjust your brush size and the brush hardness. I normally leave it here unless it's a really large, tough spot that I just want to hurry up and get out of the way. So I'm going to start up here, and I'm going to make my brush hardness a little bit higher and maybe my brush size as well. And I'm just going to start cloning it out. Now you'll notice that I click source a lot because I'm just not that good at it yet. There goes my computer whining. And don't worry about those little imperfections. We'll take care of those later. Right now we just want to get the background somewhat decent. Now I'm going to make my brush size a little smaller so we can get up to the top here. Okay, there's a little spot down here. Okay, so now we have the background pretty much done. I'm going to go ahead and apply that. Makes it easier if you want to use your back button to go back and change something. That way you don't have all of your work completely disappear, which I've done thousands of times. It's very frustrating. So now on to the sweater. I know you mentioned last night trying to get all these lines and everything lined up. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. So I jump around at random. I'm going to start here and go. Now you notice when your brush hardness is at 0, you click once, just like I did here. I'm lining, go back to source. I'm starting here, and you click it once on the part you want to clone. It makes it a lighter mark, but the more you click it, the darker it gets. Now I'm going to take that away. 2, 3. And if you put your brush hardness up, go back to source, start in this spot and go down, you'll see it makes it darker, so that helps. Now keep in mind your source, the little dotted one with the X in the middle, you have to kind of angle that and the part you want to clone to the angles that you want to achieve on your cloned space. So I wouldn't want this directly under because obviously this line is angling down. So you want to try to angle it to where you want it to clone. So here we're just going to go a little bit down. And you can see, and it takes practice, don't get me wrong, but you'll learn the different angles on how to angle your source brush. So this one up here, so it's going to be here, so I'm going to angle just a little bit down. And you can either click often or you can hold it down and just move your mouse down. And once you have the correct angle for the photo that you're trying to do, you don't really have to change it that often. At least I don't. Okay, now I'll go back to source, and this I'm going to make my brush a little bit smaller, maybe lessen the hardness. I want it to kind of just fit the angle of his shirt. And I'll put this one here, and then my clone there. And you just brush with the natural flow of the sweater. Go back to source. I want to get rid of that. Oops, okay, I made a mistake. Perfect time. Hit the eraser and just erase that a little bit. There we go. Back to source. And I want to get this line out. And, excuse me. We're going to do his face. Source. Now for this part, I'm going to take my brush hardness back down because we don't want it to be so noticeable. And this is, you got to kind of keep it extremely lined up. And I try to overlap them a little bit to the source and the actual clone line. And I just go slowly down. Back to source. And when you're on the face, I find the closer you can get to the part you want to clone, the better, because it keeps the tones. Like you wouldn't clone that line I just did from up here. You want to keep it close to the actual color of the skin you're doing. His hair is the same thing. You want to stay as close as you can so it keeps that texture of his hairline. Back to source. Now for this spot here, I'm actually going to harden the brush a little bit. Just from experience, I know parts like this can be a pain in the butt. Okay, I'm going to lessen it. Go back to his forehead. And again, these little blemishes that you see, I'll just use the blemish tool later on and get those out. Just use the eraser and get rid of that. Ah. Source. And you may have to hit the source key several times. At least I do. Just put on its tie a little bit. I hear you, computer. I know you're awake. Okay, let's get this little line. Alright. Now, these little tiny lines right here, I'm going to apply this now, because I just do. These little tiny lines here, I normally don't comb them out. I'll use wrinkle remover and just take it to a small brush and just get rid of those little rascals, like these. You don't want to do that to a very large section because it will blur it a lot. Okay. Now we'll continue with the clone. The brush size is fairly decent. We'll go ahead and clone this part out. I'm going to get that little corner. This one I'm going to make a little bit larger, only because the width where the lines are, I want it to match up as much as possible. Go back to my source. Pull and drag. Sometimes you have to click it because you see it. Sometimes it just doesn't get it. You may have to click it more than once. Let's get this little piece out. Let's do this side. And I'm sure you can hear the clicking, so that'll give you an idea how many times I click when I click. But again, that's just me. I'm going to make my brush a little smaller so we can get this part. And sometimes you just have to take off little tiny pieces at a time till you get it to where you want it. I try to alternate sides on things like this. That way it doesn't look like you just... We could have just took a big brush and went all the way across the bottom. But we're not going to do that. At least I don't do that. I have, but... Back to source. I'm realizing now how much I click the source button. And then we have a little line here, so we're going to go there. We're going to kind of angle it just a little bit off center. Bring that down. And we're going to choose this under here, go up and take care of that one. And then finally, angling it again to try to match the line up. And see, I missed that line a little bit. So I'm just going to hit my back button and see if I can go back to source and maybe get that a little bit more lined up. There, that's better. Now you can touch up any spots you want to. Oops. Let's go up here, it's a little white spot. Let's try to see what we can do there. So that basically is finished. Apply. Now for these little spots, I'm sure you already know. I'm just trying to give you little tips here and there. Your blemish fix, I just click those and get rid of them. It can be irritating depending on how many there are, but there aren't that many here. Now another little line up here you see, so I'm going to take my wrinkle remover and I'm just going to click it once, get rid of that. And the wrinkle remover will also work on some of your lines here. For the background, I'll take the brush big and I'll smooth it out with a wrinkle remover. I can't talk this morning. And just smooth all that mess out of there. This is a scratch on my screen. That ain't gonna go away. My niece decided to try to draw something literally with a pen. Let's get rid of some of these spots. And also in the face, you see, you can tell where I cloned him right here. Let me apply this first. You can see the double where it cloned. Go back to your wrinkle remover, make it small, and just click on it. If it looks a little too distorted, you can always adjust your fade up a little bit. There's another little line there, a little spot there, a little spot there. Sometimes you can't tell if it's actually their skin or an actual blemish on the photo. Let's get rid of that one and then that one. So there you have it. It's not perfect, but I hope it helps you in some way. So good luck, and let me know if you have any questions. Have a great day.